Okay, hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going in and finishing up the rest of the coding for the paddle versus ball interaction and maybe get started on something else as well. First, I want to go over the stuff we went from last video. I made some minor changes because I did some tests and I noticed there were some problems that could occur. So the first thing I did was I separated the score function into two separate functions, once for score left, once for score right. And going back to the main function where we're getting the detection for if we scored or stuff, we instead of having a variable assign scores here, which we can delete. Actually, I forgot to delete that. Now I just have, we call the node and then we ask for the score to compare. We do that both for the right score here and the left score here. And once we get back to the process function, I also change this back to the if and else if statement, and we're checking the score left and score right here. We don't have the +1 anymore because we don't need it. And that's going to be it for just some minor fixes from the last video. With that out of the way, let's go in and finish up the ball. So let's open up the ball, and where we left off was here. We're going to add in the rest of the velocity x and y calculations for the ball. So now let's see. I had some code here. If velocity.x is greater than 0, then we're going to tell the ball the velocity can be between, we're going to clamp it between cosine of the angle y, and then we're going to say it can be between 0.5 to 1.0. And the reason for this is to limit the angle, because how we're getting the angle for the ball is based off the x and y calculation. If we had it up under 0.5, we might have a more sharp angle, and we don't want to have the ball go at too much of a sharp angle. I think this will limit the angle to around 60 to 65 degrees maximum. So this is a good way to keep the angle from being too much of high angle, because if we have it closer to 80 or 90, it's going to be constantly bouncing up and down and take a lot longer to get to the other side. So I have this, and we're going to do the same thing for the other if it's a negative value, except we're going to, let's just take this and we're going to clamp it, but it's going to be between negative, so that's fine. And now let's calculate our velocity y, which is going to be taking negative sine, and then we plug in angle y. That looks fine. Now we have, I added this as an extra, but I put an absolute value of negative sine here, and then we plug in angle y, and I determined if it's greater than 0.4 as the output value, we're going to tell the game to increase our speed on the ball by 50, and else if it's not, we're going to say minus 50 speed. You can play around with this value, the 0.4, and make it lower or higher, but the higher you make this value, the less likely of a chance you're going to speed up the ball, and more likely chance the ball's going to slow down. So you want to keep caution with that. Now, let me see. We have that, yeah. Okay, the last thing we need to do is change the speed here and say start speed instead, because we've changed our starting speed from 500 to 700, and also as our speed either increments or de-increments, it's going to change the speed, so we want to have a variable that contains our starting speed. That's all good. I think that was kind of short, so I think I'm gonna also add in how to add in some shaders. I'm gonna add a new shader material here. And after we come in here and create a new shader, I need to click edit again, I think, yeah. We're gonna add in some code here, just so we have something. Canvas item. And we're gonna uniform, we're gonna add a float value, and we're gonna just call it my value. We can name it whatever we want, but I just want to have something simple and easy to understand. That's gonna be a value we're gonna add in from our script. And now we're gonna have a vec4 color, and we're gonna set it to be from texture. And I think this needs to be all caps here. UV. Yeah, that looks fine. And now we're gonna have a color.rgb here, and I'm gonna call for mix here. I think you can probably get away with just setting it directly, but I'd rather just mix it instead, because we can come in here and I'm gonna do 0, 0. So we're gonna be setting it to red, but what I'm gonna do is after my value divided by 1000, this is going to set up our opacity of how it looks. Basically, the higher the value of my value is, the more apparent it is. Is there something wrong here? vec4. Oh, I forgot. I added it. There we go. And then this, and then we're going to just set the color here to color. And now we need to go back to the ball script here. We're gonna add a new variable here called var mat. In the ready function, we're gonna call mat is gonna be equal to sprite, and then we're gonna get material. There we go. And then we're gonna say mat dot set shader parameter, and we're gonna type in my value, the value that we created for the shader, and we're going to pass along the value of speed, because you saw in the code we had max speed here set to 1000, so that's when we're going to have the opacity set to be the max value of 255, which is going to be 1000/1 for the shader language over there. So we set this shader parameter here, but we're also going to want to keep setting this every time we just run the physics process, because we want to update it constantly. You could also, I guess we could, you know what, let me move this. We can have this, maybe just have it called here. So only if the speed's ever changed. This will limit it and make it so we don't call it every single frame, because this, leaving it out here, it would be called every frame, even if we had no speed change. So you might want to just come in here and set this parameter to change once the speed changes instead. Yeah, that probably works out for better. And let's run this to see if there's any problems. Yeah, there's only one problem really I gotta fix later down the line. Is if you see that, if you hit the ball off the side of the paddle, it's gonna have that weird effect, and I'm not sure why it's showing this shader information. Did I... Let me go back to the script. I think I might have. Oh, now I remember. You gotta make sure, it's kind of dumb, you gotta make sure to have the 1000 have a decimal point, and also looks like I misspelled value as well. Those are two mistakes I made here. So I need to make sure the variable is spelled correct, and also you have to divide by a floating point value or it's not going to give the correct result. So let's fix that and test that again. There we go. We can see the ball is on the red side. And as you can see, it's starting to become more less transparent as it keeps speeding up. Yeah, it was pretty fast, but we're gonna, in the next video, fix the problem we're having where if we hit the ball on the side and hit like the edge of the map, there's like the ball's just gonna freeze up and stay there. I'm gonna need to add some extra collision detection for that, and I think that's gonna be it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next video.